He stood 12 feet from the man everyone called the king. And by nightfall, that man was dead. So why, centuries later, do historians still argue about what that soldier might have seen, heard, and felt on the worst afternoon of his career? We don't know his name. We never will. But we know men like him existed, hardened Roman soldiers stationed in a dusty, rebellious corner of the empire called Judea, tasked with keeping order in a province that hated being occupied. To understand what one of these men might have witnessed during the trial and execution of Jesus of Nazareth, we have to step into his world completely. Not the world of stained glass windows and quiet reverence, the real world. Loud, brutal, political, dangerous. Picture Jerusalem in the early 1st century. Narrow stone streets crowded with merchants shouting over the smell of roasting lamb and animal dung. Pilgrims pouring in for Passover, swelling the city's population several times over. Roman soldiers stood on rooftops and at gates, watching for any spark of rebellion, because Judea had a history of uprisings, and Rome did not tolerate disorder near a religious festival that could ignite a crowd in seconds. A soldier posted here wasn't fighting glorious battles. He was breaking up riots, guarding tax collectors, and standing watch over executions. Because crucifixion, brutal as it was, functioned as a public warning system. Rome wanted anyone tempted to challenge its authority to see exactly what would happen to them. So when a Judean prisoner was dragged before the governor, Pontius Pilate, this was routine, just another disturbance to manage before breakfast. Except this one felt different. According to the gospel accounts, the charge against Jesus wasn't simple theft or violence. Religious leaders accused him of claiming to be a king, a direct threat to Roman authority. Whether or not that claim was ever framed as political rebellion, historians agree that Rome executed people specifically for this kind of accusation, because any hint of a rival king in a restless province was treated as a security threat, not a theological debate. Now imagine standing guard as a Roman soldier during that interrogation. You've seen prisoners scream, beg, curse, deny everything to save their skin. But according to the Gospel of John, when Pilate asked Jesus directly whether he was a king, Jesus didn't panic. He didn't grovel. His answers were calm, almost unsettling in their steadiness. A soldier trained to read fear on a man's face might have found that silence more disturbing than any outburst. Then comes flogging. And this is where the story stops being distant history and becomes something visceral. Roman scourging used a whip embedded with metal or bone fragments, designed to tear skin and muscle, not just punish. Historical sources describe it as brutal enough that some men didn't survive it. A guard performing this punishment wasn't just following orders. He was participating in state-sanctioned terror, something soldiers were trained to view as simply part of the job. But was it simply part of the job? That question is where the human being inside the uniform starts to surface. After the flogging, according to the gospel accounts, soldiers mocked Jesus, dressing him in a purple robe and pressing a crown of thorns onto his head. A cruel parody of kingship, meant to humiliate him in front of the crowd. It's easy to picture this as simple cruelty, but military historians point out something colder and more calculated. This wasn't random abuse. It mirrored the way Rome mocked any rebel who dared claim power that wasn't Caesar's. The soldiers weren't just tormenting a man, they were performing a message to everyone watching. Then came the march to Golgotha, a hill outside the city walls, its name meaning place of the skull. The condemned typically carried the crossbeam themselves, a physical demonstration of submission before an audience. According to the Gospels, Jesus was in such weakened physical condition that a bystander named Simon of Cyrene was pulled from the crowd to carry it for him. A guard walking that route would have felt the crowd pressing in some jeering, some weeping, a chaotic mixture of curiosity and grief that must have made this execution feel less routine than most. Crucifixion itself was designed for slow, public suffering. Roman engineers had essentially perfected a method of execution that maximized visibility and minimized the mercy of a quick death. A guard on this duty wasn't a passive observer. He often controlled timing, verified the condemned had died, and prevented early removal of the body, which is precisely why historians find the gospel accounts of Jesus' death credible from a purely procedural standpoint. Roman soldiers were disciplined about confirming death, because releasing a living prisoner was a punishable failure. And this is where an unexpected detail emerges, one debated by scholars for centuries. According to the Gospel of John, When the soldiers came to break the legs of those crucified beside Jesus, a common practice to hasten death, they found he had already died. Instead, a soldier pierced his side with a spear. Historians and medical researchers have spent decades analyzing what that detail might indicate physiologically, though the Gospel authors record it not as clinical evidence, but as a moment of theological significance, fulfilling a scriptural prophecy about the Messiah. But here's the detail that pulls even skeptical historians into pause. According to the Gospel of Mark, a Roman centurion standing at the foot of the cross, a man whose entire career was built on enforcing Roman order, reportedly said something that should never have come out of a soldier's mouth in that setting, that this man was truly the Son of God. Scholars debate the exact wording, the historical context behind it, and whether it reflects an authentic quote or a theological statement crafted by the gospel writer to emphasize a turning point. But the core moment recorded across multiple gospel accounts remains striking regardless of interpretation. A hardened Roman military man, present at countless executions, apparently shaken by what he witnessed in this one. Why would a soldier react this way? We can't know his exact thoughts. No diary survived. No letter home. But we know what these men were trained to notice. Courage, composure, unusual behavior. And by every ancient account we have, this execution defied the pattern they knew. There was no desperate pleading, no cursing of Rome. Even as recorded in Luke's Gospel, words of forgiveness toward the very people executing him. Two men accustomed to hatred and fear in a dying man's final moments, that alone would have been unforgettable. We will never know his name, his hometown, or what happened to him afterward. Historical records rarely preserve the identities of ordinary soldiers. But if a single Roman guard truly stood at that cross and walked away questioning everything he believed about power, order, and divinity, then in some strange, quiet way, his unnamed presence became part of one of the most examined moments in human history. 2,000 years later, we still don't fully agree on what he saw. Historians debate the details. Theologians debate the meaning. But the story endures, carried forward not by kings or emperors, but by ordinary witnesses caught in an extraordinary moment. So here's the question we're sitting with. If you were that guard, standing in the dust and the noise, watching a condemned man die with more peace than fear, would it have changed you too? Tell me what you think in the comments. Primera, Hua N. Tono.